Hey everyone, welcome to Classics You Slept Through. We are the book podcast where we read you a book, a classic book, and then we discuss it. I'm your host, Kyle Davis, along with a girl who apparently does not love you because she is still here podcasting, my sister, Meredith Davis. How's it going, Mer?
Damn it, I did it again.
I forgot that I had to prompt you. I suddenly realized after our fiasco last episode. I need to prompt you to say something. We need the stage manager to cue you in.
Hey, I'm good.
Good.
Did you ask me how I was? I think you did.
I did. I did.
Hey, happy gallstone anniversary. This time
Is
last
that today?
year, you were in a
is.
hospital in Jordan.
I was
having emergency surgery.
Emergency gallbladder surgery. That was a lot of fun. Thank you for reminding me of that. But yes,
I know about it because I'm
do.
a compulsive journaler and I journal about everything. So I happened to read that entry and was like, oh my God, it's in a couple days. Gallstone anniversary.
Not only was it my gallstone anniversary, it also marks my final trip to Jordan. This was the last time I was in a country that I spent 4, 5, 6, 7 years of my life, either living in or traveling to frequently.
Do you miss it?
Yeah.
Do you miss Jordan?
You know, I kind of do a little bit. I didn't think I would. I think being unemployed for so long, I miss doing anything, really, doing something, being useful in some regard. So hopefully, dear listeners, I'm useful to you on this podcast, because otherwise my life would be completely bleak and have no meaning whatsoever.
Yeah. I'm up on 6 months unemployed from an actual job.
There you go.
Plenty busy with things, but nothing that gives me money. So
right. I mean, technically, I'm only on month? This is month 4 of technically being unemployed. But my last 2.5 months on active duty were just my leave. So I wasn't actually doing anything. So
on that happy
I count
note,
it more towards a 7. Yeah.
Our really fulfilling lives. Let's talk about some people who have ultimately less fulfilling lives.
And ultimately are also unemployed and are just independently wealthy.
Well,
don't we wish we all were, right?
Yeah.
So we are talking about Kate Chopin's The Awakening. And due to my slovenly sloth and setting up a new house and everything else last time around, we didn't do my chapters 2 weeks ago. So that means we are talking about a lot of the book.
A lot of chapters.
So we've got chapters 19 through 39, which finishes the book. And some of it we're going to, as we discussed, I think on our first discussion episode, a lot of these chapters are more thematic. Things happen, but the narrative isn't quite as important as the subtext as of what's happening. But I would argue in this section, maybe what's happening is actually pretty important too. So maybe it all crescendos here at the end. So with that, because we have so much to get through, I think we're going to speed through these chapters a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. All right, so kicking it off with chapter 19 is the first one we're talking about. We see Edna Pontellier sort of really asserting herself and her independence from societal pressure. She's stopped taking her Tuesday callers. She doesn't go out. She's talking back to her husband and really standing up to him, standing up for herself.
She's choosing to paint instead of...
She paints a lot.
...run the house. And she's choosing to have others to paint instead of having them run the house. So she's having the servants be models and whatnot. And it's a detriment to the family, her husband says.
Right. He's a little upset because the house is in decline. She is not a bonne ménagère. She's not a good housewife, a good manager, as it says in the French. And I kind of felt this chapter, she starts to look, I don't know if bipolar is the right word, but she's happy, she's sad,
right? But
she's unable to pinpoint why. So it says that she can't really tell why she's happy or sad at any given moment. So something's eating her, and is she not self-reflective enough? Is she not thinking about thought enough to figure out why she's happy or sad?
Yeah. I mean, yes, I think so. We'll see as we go forward, there is more than one reference. There are more than one reference. Whatever. There's more than one reference to her not being self-reflective or being reflective, period. So perhaps.
Yes.
I mean, Leonce is beginning to think that she is mentally unstable, and that could be for his own, patriarchal reasons. Like, my wife isn't running the house. She must be nuts.
Right.
But also her behavior has changed and she's a different person.
She's never stood up to him before.
Right.
Definitely. So that brings us to chapter 20. She hasn't seen Madame Rice since the island, and she decides, I'm going to go visit her, but she lost her card, doesn't know where she lives. So she goes to find her, or she has, I guess, the last address she looks at the city directory.
Mm-hmm.
The phone book, basically. Goes to the address listed. She's not there. Some other folks are living there.
Who don't
she
know
goes
her.
To don't know her. She goes to the grocer, because surely the grocer, she would have left a forwarding address. I guess. Do you leave a forwarding address with your grocer?
I guess if he delivers your groceries.
And you want to keep the same grocer? I mean, I guess you don't just go to the local Weiss market. You have to stay with a relationship with your grocer. But he hated her, and he's like, I don't know where she went. I'm glad I don't know where she went. I'm not gonna talk to her. So she then goes to, she's like, maybe the Lebruns. The Lebruns surely will know where she is. So she goes over to the Lebrun's house. Victor's there, welcomes him. He tells this great story about this girl he was hooking up with last night, just randomly on the street. He's like, I saw her out of the window, and kind of, and Edna thinks it's kind of cute and funny. Like, she sort of humors him a little bit. He's all of 19 and showing it here. Mrs. Lebrun comes, and they have a conversation. They hang out on the porch. Turns out, the big news, she's gotten some letters from Robert.
Yeah, Victor describes 2 of them. 2 letters from Robert.
He describes Mexico City, and he's sending money back home. So he's obviously making some money. He's taking care of his family. He's sending some money back home. But
he's not finding the fortune that he thought he would find. So it's some money, but not the fortune that, he'd been dreaming of.
But he's got good prospects. Prospects are good.
Yeah.
So she gets the address of Madame Rice's, and she leaves. And when she leaves, Victor notices there's something different about her.
Yeah.
So he doesn't quite pinpoint it, but, the awakening she's going through, he detects it anyway.
His mom does too. How handsome she looks, is what his mom says. And he admitted that she looks ravishing.
Oh, good old Victor. Every dude in this book is super horny, except for Leonce. Like, that's what I'm noticing.
Maybe he should be the one who is, and he would keep his wife, but I get ahead of myself.
All right, it gets us to 21. She gets to Madame Rice's place, and she's just got a shabby little 3-room. So, through this little vignette of finding Madame Rice, we have gone from where the Pontelliers live, which you said pre-pod we were talking, you said is like Millionaire's Row.
Yeah, that's what I learned on the internet, that Esplanade Street was described at this time period as Millionaire's Row.
So she is like the well-to-do of the well-to-do down in New Orleans. And she goes through Madame Rice's area. And Madame Rice's area originally, another family and a lesser class of folk have moved in, but they're respectable and they rent out nice furnished rooms. And, they ask if Edna wanted a room. And then she kind of goes over to the Lebruns. And we know from earlier, the Lebruns aren't super well-to-do. Robert supports them and their only real income is running the island in the summer.
Right.
So they're probably more middle class. And then she gets over to Madame Rice's new place, and it's just a shabby apartment. It's only 3 rooms, tiny. She eats in the kitchen, sleeps in another room, and has a sitting room, basically. So it's pretty bad.
Sounds like enough.
No, she's just one lady. But anyway, she gets to Madame Rice's. So we've seen sort of the different facets of society in New Orleans at this time period. So Madame Rice, expresses disbelief. Oh, I didn't believe that you would ever come. Why didn't you come? I thought you didn't like me or whatever.
And it's like, I don't know if I liked you. I don't know. I still don't know. I love how candid they are. Just this banter back and forth.
Right. Edna is very open, which I think is probably not the norm of the time.
No, and not the norm for Edna. Remember, she keeps everything to herself.
Right.
Can't
so this is
even read
another
a book
evidence
in front
of
people.
More of the titular awakening here.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they talk, and it comes out that Madame Rice has had a letter from Robert. So Robert's written to this lady that just kind of boards at his hotel in the summer, but he hasn't written Edna, and that really kind of burns her up a little bit.
And he said he would. That was like his last promise before he was like, yes, goodbye. Cheerio,
Right.
Old friend. Or whatever he said that was very formal.
Well, of course, Edna wants to read the letter, and I thought this was kind of fun. Even going back to Northanger Abbey, where the reading of a letter and the passing it around was like a thing that you did. It was like the public reading the letter. She's the first person in the book who's like, no, this is my letter. He wrote it. It's addressed to me. Why should I let you read it?
It's about you, not to you. You don't get to read it.
Exactly. But she does capitulate. She lets Edna read it. Madame Rice plays the piano for her, and at the end, after Edna leaves, Madame Rice notices the letter is tear-stained and crumpled. But she smooths it out and puts it back in the drawer for later. So Madame Rice knows something's up. Well, I think she knew something was up just from the letter.
Of course.
So that takes us to 22. Leonce, as we had said, has definitely detected something's up. So he goes to see old Dr. Mandelay. And he wants to know, can you help me? I don't know what's up with Edna.
There's something wrong with her.
Definitely. I mean, I only see her at breakfast, if you catch my drift. They are not intimate.
She's got some sort of notion in her head concerning the eternal rights of women. Bah!
Oh.
Ah. She's clearly mentally unstable.
Exactly. So the doc he's old, so we probably should characterize him a little bit. He's very old. He's retired. He doesn't really practice anymore, but he does for a few families, and the Pontelliers are one of the ones that he'll still see. And he kind of stays out of things. He's not real into meddling in affairs. So he's kind of our neutral third party here. Mm-hmm. And he really is, I think, a bit of a sympathetic character.
Yeah. I think he certainly is one now and becomes one later. I mean, his advice is leave your wife alone. And then he explains, like, it's a passing whim. She'll be fine. Right. And he wonders at the end if there's not another man involved. So now I'm thinking, is he saying, leave your wife alone, let her have her affair.
Right.
It will end. It'll married to you. She's got kids. Right. Where else is she going to go? And then she'll come back and she'll be fine. Which I, I'm placing that subtext onto it. But why else would he say, just let her alone, it'll pass?
Right. Now, I agree.
He doesn't put a time frame on it. He's like, maybe some weeks, 3 months, 6 months, longer.
Because I think if what Chopin is trying to say here is if the roles were reversed, right? If Leonce had a side girl, I think societally, wouldn't Edna be forced to just accept and it'll burn out after a while?
Either it'll burn out or it'll just be the life that you accept. Like, this is how it is.
It's not a big deal.
At least I'm the wife. I'm the one who gets diamonds and golden chalices and whatever.
I get to be seen in public with him.
Right.
I'm respectable.
I get the title.
I would assume that in this time, had the roles been reversed and Leonce was having an affair, Edna would be forced to accept.
Right.
So I think that's kind of at the heart of Dr. Mandelay's advice. He's saying equality here. Hey, if she just has a dude on the side, like, that's fine. Just, it's okay. It'll work itself out. One of the fun quotes that I don't know, fun, but we can kind of dissect a little bit. I didn't quite know how to take it. So Dr. Mandelay almost asks Leonce if there's another man in the picture. But it says he knew his Creole too well to make a blunder as that.
Yeah.
So does that mean if he asked, then Leonce would take offense and get like hot angry at him? Or because we've established that the Creoles are not a jealous people, as it said, down in Grand Isle, that he didn't care about Robert's flirting?
That the doctor would just look stupid asking such a stupid question?
Right. Like maybe, like, I don't care if it's another guy or not. Like, it shouldn't affect anything.
Right. That's actually a good point. Because we don't know that about Leonce. We know he doesn't get jealous because Creoles don't, as stated in the book.
Right.
So if she has a side guy, as long as you don't blow up the marriage, as long as you don't bring a scandal, as long as you are fulfilling all of your duties.
Which she's not.
What do I care? I never considered that.
Down at Grand Isle, he did shoo Robert away after a while, once he noticed it was getting a little more serious.
Well, the one time he tried to invite him to go to Klein's with him, like, hey, why don't you come with me instead of... And I took it as more of like, stop hanging out with the ladies. Come on.
That's
come
true
hang out
too.
with some men. Come play billiards. Don't chit-chat and fan my wife.
If he's the side guy, he just wants to get to know him and, like, get his intentions down. Like, hey, man, you can have your fun, but don't bring scandal. Don't make it public.
Yeah.
Don't blow up what I got.
Huh.
Because obviously, as he tells Mandalay, like, I only see Edna at breakfast. Like, he's not asking for marital help in that regard. He doesn't care. That's not his concern. His concern is, she's neglecting the kids. She's neglecting the housework. She's not doing what I want her to do as a wife, those duties. He's like, and we're not having sex, but whatever. I'm not here to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, and he tells her, like, she won't go to her sister Janet's wedding because she says a wedding is one of the most lamentable spectacles on earth. What a nice thing to say to your husband.
Yes.
I don't know. I think I'm going to go with he knows not to say it because maybe Leonce would get mad, would be upset, and like go off into some kind of hot rage.
He'd just be offended.
Maybe he would just be offended. Like, how dare you say something like that or accuse my wife of such a thing? Because he's all about keeping up the appearances.
Right. Because as we'll see later, when she moves out, he says something along the other. Leonce says, Chopin tells us that Leonce keeps up the appearances and wants to fight off scandal because that would never enter in his mind that there would be scandal.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, perhaps. Well, that takes us to 23 and the Colonel. Edna's dad arrives. He wants to get some new clothes for this wedding that's coming up. He needs to get a wedding gift. And he is just a picture of the old Southern gentleman. He's a former Confederate colonel. They call him the Colonel still. He wears, these suits that are padded up so that he, even though he's a frail old man, that he seems bigger.
I feel like I could feel your eye roll at the fact that they still call him the Colonel. And like being called by your title for the rest of your life. You don't want to be major for the rest of your life.
It's one of my pet peeves. That's me. I went to get my library card this week downtown, and the lady asked me if I was attached to the base, and I was like, nope, I'm not. Even though I'm youngish still looking and of military age. Nope, totally not.
Nope, totally just a regular person.
Just a dude, yeah.
What is Army? I don't know.
And I'm still waiting for somebody at some point. The base I'm at is pretty small, so it's not like it's a lot of people, but I'm still waiting for somebody to say something to me and being able to go, nah, man, I'm just retired. I'm a civilian guy.
Not my problem.
It's not my problem, man. Still waiting on that.
I do find it interesting
someday.
You found yourself on a base again.
Free gym, free, I went and I changed the oil in the car the other day because we have an auto skills center that I can just go $10 an hour. I can rent a bay and change the oil, rotate the tires. I can do all that stuff for cheap.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, we have auto skill centers. I can rent out a bay and tools, and if I got questions, I can just yell at one of the mechanics, "Hey man, how do I do this?"
Is that an
They'll come over
army
and show
thing,
me.
or is that like just a thing in the world?
No, it's an army thing.
That's so
Most bases have them.
I've
You
literally
can go work
never
on your
heard of
car. It's great because they dispose of the oil for me. I don't have to do anything. They got all the tools there. I don't have to own anything. And with all my stuff being in storage, I don't own anything. I can use the lift. I just put the car up on the lift. I can get under it and do whatever I need to do, and then it's awesome.
I could see why
$10
that
an
being
hour.
available for just regular civilians, why that might be like a liability.
Right. Yeah, but for us, they're just like, yeah, you want to go ahead? Yeah, here's how to use the lift.
There's
All
a
right,
great
go
old
for it.
Paula Poundstone bit from one of her specials. I used to listen to Paula Poundstone all the time. Love her. But she's talking to the audience, and she's like, "What do you do, sir?" And he's like, "I'm a lawyer." And someone else in the audience is like, "Boo!" And she's like, "Ma'am, why are you?" She's like, "I just had a bad experience with lawyers because my mother fell and ripped her face open on a lube rack." And
Oh,
Paula
jeez.
Poundstone is like, "Way to bring us all down, ma'am." Like, how does... It's a great... Oh my God, I highly recommend. It's just a great bit overall. But I can see why you wouldn't want just regular people with access to the lift.
Right.
I guess internally the army can just deal with whatever happens.
Sure, exactly.
That's
Yeah, we'll
so
take care of it.
cool. That's awesome. Anyway,
But yeah, anyway. So it's just nice. Free gym is always nice.
of course.
All right, so Dad, he, Southern gentleman, drinks a lot, makes his own drinks, so he's cultured, and people apparently he makes good drinks.
Mm-hmm.
So people talk about him, and he gives them fun names too. I mean, doesn't get any better than that.
There are no
but then
names in
we
here,
have-
though. They give fun
No.
names, but no examples.
No,
God
exactly.
forbid they not live up to the hype.
Right. Turns out that the Colonel actually named Sex on the Beach. That was his deal. All right, so we go to the dinner party.
I haven't had
So we have a dinner party that night.
those are
Doctor
delicious,
comes
by
over.
the way.
It's very good.
They're
very
good, but I
dinner.
haven't had one since I was like 24. Anyway, dinner party. Or no, they go to the soirée musicale, right?
Yes.
Ratignolles.
Yes. At the Ratignolles. And at the end, this is where the doctor knows something's up.
Yeah, he knows.
He knows. Because at the end, this is where he says that I pray it's not Arobin.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
The dinner was awkward
I
enough
hope-
that he wished he hadn't accepted the invitation in the first place. And now, because I think
Right.
now he knows, because he knows, he wishes he hadn't accepted this invitation.
because he's old. He's retired. He just wants to be
Right.
left alone.
Doesn't want the secrets
doesn't
of
wanna
other
get
lives
involved.
thrust upon. Who does? Who wants
Exactly.
the secrets of other people's lives thrust upon them? I mean, some people do. Maybe that's why there's advice columns.
I think it's a difference between it thrust upon you and you're involved, as opposed to just knowing. Right? Like, my wife's into the Enneagram. I'm a 5, which means I'm an information intaker. I
don't
like
know what any
information.
of that means.
You should look at. You're a white girl. You're supposed to be into the Enneagram. Come on.
What?
Yeah, it's a thing. I don't know. Anyway, so I love information. Like, I need to know things. So I would like to know all these secrets. But I don't want to be. You're right. I don't want to be involved though. Like, leave me out of it. I just want the knowledge.
You want to be passing notes back and forth between Arobin
Right.
and
No,
Mrs. Ponsley?
definitely not.
No.
But because the doctor knows he would have to do something if it's Arobin, or he
Right.
Leonce would ask him for help.
Well, and also Arobin ruins. I mean, even having your name associated with him could ruin a woman's reputation. We learn.
Right. He's known then.
Right.
Arobin has his own reputation.
So just her being seen with him, that's, I guess, potentially a scandal, and that's it. So I think he hopes that it isn't Arobin mostly for that reason.
Right. I would think so. All right, 24. We're going to go quickly. We don't have much on this one. So this is Edna tells her dad, I'm not going to the wedding. They kind of fight about it. And then Leonce leaves for New York.
Right. Well, they fight about it. Leonce is there, and he doesn't do anything to, like,
he doesn't want to get involved.
Like wrangle his wife, and the colonel is like, Leonce, you should really put your foot down. And he's like, doctor told me to stay out of it.
I'm good.
I'm staying
But
out
plus,
of it.
they make a comment that Leonce knows that the colonel, I forget the word they used, but basically put his foot down until his wife is in the grave.
Right, he put his foot down and his wife into the grave.
Right, so at least Leonce he's not a terrible guy. He's like, I really don't want to do that. I'm going to let her do her thing.
That's awesome.
All right, so he leaves for New York. He's going to be gone for some time.
Right.
Is the point of that. All right, so chapter 25, we finally meet Arobin, right? And he takes Edna and Mrs. Highcamp, and they start going, this becomes a regular thing. They start going to the horse races. Mm-hmm. And because, I feel like this is a little stereotypical, but because she's from Kentucky, and she knows the good sight of, she knows good horse flesh, she's good at this.
Yeah.
She starts winning.
No one's better than her. They might be as good, but no one is better at the...
Have you ever been to a horse race?
I have been to literally one horse race.
I've been to literally one horse race.
Were you there as part of the spectacle? Because I was.
As part of the spectacle?
Yeah.
Were you dancing at a horse race?
No, and that sounds weird to people who don't know that I was like a legitimate like ballet and jazz dancer. And not any other.
She was not a dancer for dollars. She actually danced.
I was there as a Civil War reenactor.
Oh.
And so we
went...
At
a horse race?
Yeah. What were those horse races near home?
What?
Like the Raystown. Was it Raystown?
Penn National?
Whatever was
That's a golf course.
Close to our hometown.
Did we have horse racing? I didn't realize we had horse racing.
Yeah. And
you're stumping me.
One day, our group... I think it was the 72nd Infantry, Pennsylvania Infantry. I think that's what we were. I don't remember. I was just there for the boys.
You remember?
I was just there to ogle the other boys, and also to babysit
in their
our
scratchy
neighbors'
wool,
kids. Yeah,
sweating in their scratchy wool uniforms and smelling horribly.
But we got to be in front of so there was like two fences, and so one fence the spectators could stand at. And then there was an additional fence inside that one where it was like the official fence of the track. We, as part of the spectacle, I guess, or part of the race, of whatever kind of event they were having, we got to be on the inner fence so that the people could look at us and also at the horses in our Civil War garb.
So you were just hanging out in the infield watching the horses?
Yeah, we didn't have like.
So you didn't actually like go to a horse race and put down some money on the ponies?
No. I was part of the event.
Oh, okay. So I've actually been to a track and put money on horses.
Did you win any?
I think a little bit. It's been so long I don't remember. But yeah, so I was in Korea and a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, let's go to the horse races." I'm like, "Okay." This was a Korean buddy of mine. Because I didn't know there was horse racing in Korea, right?
I don't know.
So he took me to a track, and we got the little paper that had all the races and the horses that were going to be in it. And there's like a backtrack behind you, or a little circle, basically, where, they announce like race 3 is back there or something. And you go there, and they parade the horses around, and you can kind of look at the horses and evaluate with your eye. And then you can mark, okay, I think that one looks good. All right, that looks good. All right. And then you go upstairs into the stands and you place your bets and they give you little slips or whatever. And then you sit there and you watch the races and hope your horse wins. And then you go collect your money.
So that's what she's good at, like evaluating.
So that's what she's good at.
Interesting.
Right. She's from Kentucky and knows her horse flesh. And so she can see which horses are good. And these folks down in New Orleans who haven't grown up around horses, they're just guessing. But anyway, she wins some money. Right. She does quite well.
I did win money on the Kentucky Derby once by accident. So the bar down the street, my favorite bar that we used to go to all the time before we had children, and before COVID. But it was pre-children, so it must have been 2014 or 13. I don't know what year. But we went in the afternoon. It was a Kentucky Derby, and they were doing like a brown bag, like just pick a name and everybody threw in a bunch of money, pick a name. I literally picked the last name in the bag, and the last one left was American Pharaoh, and he won.
They won.
And I won a bunch of money. I don't
There you go.
remember. It was like, I don't know, it was like $100, but it was not a full bar, but it was a lot of money for the few people that were in the bar. And I was like,
Right.
Gambling is amazing. This is awesome.
Is great.
I should do this more often.
Right.
And I didn't. But I did accidentally win money on American Pharaoh. So,
Well, there you go.
woohoo.
That's all you need.
But it's no accident for Edna. She knows what she's talking about.
She knows what she's doing. So anyway, after the races, they go to dinner at the High Camps. Mr. High Camp, I love the description, a plain, bald-headed man who only talked under compulsion.
Well,
Anyway, the dinner...
Is that better than Alice Arobin's description of a good-looking person who is, quote, not overburdened with depth of thought or feeling?
Arobin is literally eye candy.
I mean...
That's all he is.
They're both relatively uninteresting people, Mr. Highcamp
Right.
and Arobin. Arobin's might be my
Really,
favorite.
Arobin's good looking. He's got that going for him. Whereas Highcamp's old and bald. So, which, as we've established, that Leonce is early 40s and Edna is
28.
not quite 30.
Right.
Mrs. Highcamp is in her 40s. So Mr. Highcamp could be into his 60s,
Yeah.
So he could be an old dude.
He's over it. He doesn't want to have dinner with these 20-somethings.
Exactly. No. I
They're like drunk back
sorry,
to the races.
I can't blame him. Right.
Yeah, I don't blame him at all.
Exactly. So anyways, the dinner goes on and it's over with, everybody's kind of like, okay, you have to go home, Edna. Great. She asks, Mr. Highcamp kind of says, do you want me to escort you home? And then he looks at his slippers and he's like,
I had to
she's
put
like,
shoes on.
it's fine. I know. It's fine. So anyway, Arobin apparently ends up taking her home, and she's really conflicted over her thoughts about being around Arobin because she really wants Robert. She doesn't want to be with this Arobin dude, but he is very attentive to her.
He sure is.
So then a little bit later, she goes to the races now with Arobin alone.
Mm.
They come back to her place. And, there's this weird scene where he shows her this scar he has from a duel, and she's like totally grossed out by it. I didn't quite understand what was going on there.
I don't either, unless it's akin to like she doesn't, she blushes at saying the word pregnant, or she used to anyway. And maybe she just doesn't want to, either she's just grossed out by the physicality of it, or she's grossed out as like, I don't really want to get to know you because you kind of disgust me and you're empty.
Or we're showing the contrast, like they are incompatible.
Yeah. Hey,
like
that's
he's
a
like,
good point.
look at my cool dueling scar. And she's like, yo, bro, that's gross. I don't need to see that. Thanks.
Cool.
He just doesn't get her. She doesn't get him.
And this was
anyway,
this was a duel with a saber. He was in a sword fight.
In the late 1800s. Like, this is
unnecessary to be in a sword fight.
At this point, yeah, definitely at this point in history, dueling should be well out of fashion, I would have thought, by the 1899.
And, also to your point, like, he'd been talking with frankness about a wicked, ill-disciplined boy he had been. And she's not impressed by him at all.
No. He is telling her all his schoolyard tales and all the girls he's hooked up with. And this seems to be a theme. We'll see in a minute. Dudes like to tell her. Which I think there's another quote later, or another line later, that Arobin has detected her latent sexuality. So I think these guys are seeing something in her, and they're like, if I talk about sex with her, she'll want to have sex with me. I'm good at it. I've done it a lot.
And the thing,
I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe.
we know he has done whatever he's doing to her before, because he's known to ruin people's reputations should they even be seen with him. He uses lines on her he's used before. So we'll, this is what he does. He doesn't have a job.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. And so she kicks him out, or wants to kick him out. He wants to see her again. He doesn't want to. He says, oh, I hope I haven't, you haven't misled me. My own emotions. My own feelings have misled me because I feel so strongly towards you. And then it says, I love the Chopin saying, his manner was so genuine, it often deceived even himself.
Yeah.
So he's a player. He's just trying to get in her pants.
He's pretty good at what
insincere.
he does. Well, she doesn't wear pants, so.
Oh, true. He wants to get under her pantaloons or under her.
Like under it in and through, and I don't even know.
You wore this stuff in your period dress?
Not in the 1890s. This was 1860s, which there were wool stockings, plus pantaloons, plus an underskirt, plus if you wore a hoop skirt, then there was an overskirt over the hoop skirt, then you actually got to your actual skirt. I don't know why any of that was necessary, although, because of all of that, back in the day, some of them were crotchless, so it might be easier than you think.
Ooh. I was about to say, with all of that wearing, wouldn't that cool like the immediacy, but maybe not.
No, because it's so difficult to get it all off to even go to the bathroom. Some of them are crotchless.
Interesting. So anyway, finally she gets him out of the house, and she feels a little bad about this, actually, because she's like, it says, what would he think if he found out that Arobin was there? But she's not thinking about her husband. Yeah. She's thinking about Robert. What would Robert think if he found out that I was hanging out with Arobin?
Yeah, and the big thing was that Arobin kisses her hand, very sensually kisses her hand, and it was like a narcotic upon her.
Right. Oof. So in a way, Arobin was right. Like, even though she doesn't care for him, this burgeoning sexuality within her, she does have a response to this. And as we'll see, she apparently responds a few times. Chapter 26. She goes over to see Madame Rice. Mm-hmm. She's made up her mind. She's moving out of the house. And she's going to throw a big shindig. And, of course, Leonce is going to pay for it. And she doesn't care. She admits to Madame Rice, you brought this up, this is a big one, that she admits that she loves Robert.
And this admission is the first time she's actually admitted it to herself while she's admitting it to Madame Rice. And this thing, it's interesting, this thing that she's admitting, like, I love this other person. And I guess it could be debatable what kind of love this is, as it was compared to the infatuation she had as a, teen and preteen and all of that. But this is the ultimate, her feelings for Robert, the ultimate catalyst for everything she does after this awakening. Or maybe the awakening is the catalyst and he awakened her, whatever. She's moving away. She's going to move out of her house just down the street. And she's
asserting all independence at this point.
Yeah, fully.
So, and you also had brought up that this is building that intimacy between her and Madame Rice. That they're talking so openly about this.
Yeah, and she hasn't even told her husband yet. And it's funny because Madame Rice is like, well, have you told him? And she's like, no, I just thought of it. Like, just now. I just decided this morning that I'm gonna do this. And Madame Rice doesn't, if she's not, I think it's conspicuous she's not telling Adele, who seemed like such a good friend to her, because Adele wouldn't stand for it. Adele is the perfect picture of social adherence, social consistency. She holds that social contract very dear. And Madame Rice is like, all right.
Yeah.
That's
sure.
You're gonna do that? Okay. I hope you better be brave, you better be strong if you're gonna do that.
Right. Chapter 27, very short chapter. We crossed the Rubicon here. Only note I have is hooks up with Arobin at this point. And she detachedly hooks up with him a little bit earlier in the chapter. Before we actually get to that, he's talking, he's like complimenting her and whatever else. And this is where Edna brings up the quote from Madame Rice when she said, I hope you got strong shoulders for these wings for what you're about to do. And Arobin's like, why are you bringing her up? I'm talking about you. And Edna says, oh, talk of me if you like, but let me think of something else while you do.
Yeah. So
she's like, do what you're gonna do, man. I'm not even here.
Got my eyes closed and I'm picturing Robert.
Exactly.
That's all. Just go ahead. Don't talk. I don't want to hear your voice. That's what I'm picturing. I like
exactly. No, I think that's what it is.
Madame Rice's quote it's the bird that would soar above the level plane of tradition and prejudice must have strong wings, which I think is a good enough quote in and of itself. But then she follows that up with, it is a sad spectacle to see the weaklings bruised, exhausted, fluttering back to earth. So basically, I feel like she's saying, girl, you better be strong and decide you're doing this and do it, because there's nothing worse than watching you, to use another, metaphor, tuck your tail and head back home to the place you don't want to be, like, and just be this broken thing living your life. So don't do that.
Right.
So if you're going to soar.
Right. So I think we bring that up because I don't think she soared with Arobin, because chapter 28 is the morning after. Arobin's gone, and she's like, what did I just do? She feels a little bit guilty.
Right.
It says she felt some remorse on the part of her husband, like kind of like a sort of what would he say thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert kind of more intimately, like, I sort of cheated on Robert at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So she feels this irresponsibility towards these two guys, but it says she felt this irresponsibility, but no shame or remorse.
No, she only regrets that it wasn't full of love, basically.
Right.
That it was not love that held the cup of life to her lips. It was just straight up hookup. Exactly.
Because, Arobin's got nothing in his head anyway. He's just a pretty boy.
And he's an easy target. You could think of Edna as someone who's, it looks like he's targeting her, but maybe she's equally as targeting him, because she could be like, get away from me, you empty-headed pretty boy. But she's like, nah, this is kind of what you do. This is actually kind of...
Right.
If I use you to sail into this new life, you're an easy target for this, in a way. So...
Well, she kind of did last chapter, right? Because she tried to send him away. Well, I guess the previous time she tried to send him away. She wasn't interested. And then this chapter, it says that, this was the first kiss that her body sort of responds to.
Yeah.
And couple that with the, talk to me if you like, but I'm going to think about something else. So she really is just using him for the physical response that she is now feeling, because she's never felt this physical sexuality before.
Oh, we're just smashing the patriarchy over and over again.
Well, they were smashing something. All right. So chapter 29. She moves into her house basically next door. So she doesn't go far.
Yeah.
But it's a little house, and she's doing the stuff that she wants to take with her. She's rolled up her sleeves. She's up on the ladder. She's doing it, and she's taking stuff down. And Arobin shows up, and this guy just keeps coming around, right? Like, he's basically, from this point on, always around, because, as we said, he's a layabout, he's independently wealthy, has no job, so he just kind of hangs out with Edna. She tells him that she's throwing this big dinner party. Of course, he's invited. He says, oh, well, can I see you before dinner? And she's like, no, you can see me at the dinner party. And he's like, but I want to see you before. And she's like, yeah, no, sorry. And she kind of is teasing him about it. And I think this is what we were just saying. Like, she feels nothing towards him. She's just using him. She's like, look, I literally don't want to see you until I'm horny, so I'll see you after dinner, okay?
She looked at him with eyes that at once gave him courage to wait and made it torture to wait. So she's totally leading him on, like...
Right, because he knows what's going to happen
when
he does get to see her. But she's like, I don't want to see you till I'm ready. Like, I'm in control of this encounter.
Yeah, girl. All right,
so 30, we hit 30, and we have
the dinner.
Big dinner.
I love the dinner party.
Oh, my goodness.
This is one of those chapters I've talked about before, myself not understanding older literature. This is one of those chapters where I was like, this is such a serious thing. This is a very formal, very serious dinner. Everything that's happening is like somehow prim and proper and serious, and I just don't understand it.
It is meaningful.
It's meaningful.
Everything's happening. So we find out it's Edna's birthday. She's 29.
Yay.
She's got some new diamonds from Leonce. So, he didn't forget her birthday. That was nice.
Also, I think it might be like, hey, don't leave me, diamonds. or
could be.
Or I don't know. Like, this is weird. Whatever's happening, you moving out. But also it's her birthday, so.
Right. It is her birthday. So, there's some folks there. Mr. Rattenmule's there. Adele is a little too pregnant. She can't go out. She stayed home. Can't be seen. She invited the high camps over, which I don't think we've mentioned, but in the chapter that talked about her Tuesday meetings, when all the name cards were brought to Leonce and he's going through them, the high camps were one that he was like, ugh, don't
really?
associate with them.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, I'm glad you weren't here on Tuesday to see Mrs. Highcamp. I don't like them.
Well, then conspicuously, the Belthrops are not at her dinner.
Correct. Exactly. So she's hanging out with the people that Lance doesn't even like. So they're there. We've got the Merrimans, which I think were another name card. I forget how Lance felt about them, but they're there. And Victor Lebrun is there. And is Madame Lebrun's there too, isn't she?
No, she couldn't come, and she sent 1,000 apologies.
She was the other. Yeah, there were two that called out. So it was Madame Ratignolle and Madame Lebrun.
Not Merryweather, May Blunt. Oh, Merriman, you're right. And Miss May Blunt with Gouvernail. Gouvernail. Do you know how hard I tried to say that properly for the reading, everyone? Goodness. I looked it up. I listened to pronunciations. And you got what you got.
I took Spanish in high school. I did not take French. No. All of French that I have is our school in 8th grade. So we had our high school had 3 languages that you could take. You could take French, Spanish, or Latin. And in 8th grade, they brought in each of those teachers for, how long was it? A week each? A month each? I forget how long, but they brought in each of those teachers to give you lessons for that length of time to kind of expose you in 8th grade so that when you got to high school, you could select what you wanted to take.
They stopped doing that by the time I got there.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, so all my whole French is like that 1 month or however long that they exposed us in 8th grade. So we did a lot of Google searching to figure out how to pronounce these names. I'm so sorry. I know Arobin is supposed to be like Aroba or something, but I just started saying Arobin and we've just been going with it.
We've just been going with it. But so this dinner party is basically just a big drunk fest eventually.
Right. It kind of goes off the rails and it really gets bad because everybody wants Victor to sing a song.
Oh.
And so he starts singing, can we say Edna's song? Robert's song?
Yeah.
The Si tu savais song.
Yeah.
And she freaks out. She's like, stop. You got to stop. And as you said, everybody's kind of drunk. So Victor thinks she's just kind of teasing and he keeps going. He kind of thinks she's egging him on and she just loses it. And everybody kind of detects it. And after that, the party's like, we're just going to all go home now.
Yeah. She flung he had a garland of roses on his head, being silly. She flung it across the room. I think she broke a glass. It got real weird real fast, and everyone got
Very
real
awkward.
uncomfortable.
Yes. So everybody leaves the dinner party.
Except Arobin.
Rolling into chapter 31, except for our boy Arobin. Really, 31, all I have is they hook up again after dinner.
She became supple to his gentle, seductive entreaties. Which, and when we were talking before, I was like, maybe they were just smooching, and you're like, no.
If you're becoming supple to someone's gentle entreaties or seductive entreaties, yeah, they
were just smooching. Anyway. All right, fine.
Yeah. There was probably a lot of smooching going on with those supple entreaties. All right, so we get to 32. And so now Leonce has gotten word of her moving out.
Oh, and he's so smart.
He is. This is slick, right?
Yeah, slick. I don't know if he's smart, but he's slick for sure.
He doesn't want a scandal. So he says, you know what? We're just renovating the house. So that's why she moved out. And so he immediately hires out a bunch of people to do a bunch of stuff.
Stuff that he's been planning. Like he like hires an architect and he gives them exact minute details of exactly what he wants done to the house, which he has been planning for a while, but now he's got a reason to.
Right.
He puts an ad in the paper, which, what did you call them? The social somethings?
Oh, well, that's what he was worried about, right? The social pages.
Okay. Because
it had gotten out in the social pages or it's announced in the social pages that he's doing some renovations to his house.
And that they're going that they'll be going abroad eventually.
Right, exactly. So that's how people kept up with what the, lifestyles of the rich and famous back in the days. You read the society page and saw what all the who's who in the city were doing.
And when I was reading this, I was like, that's so weird that you would tell everyone in the newspaper, like, hey, my wife moved out, we're doing some renovations, and then we're going to go on a trip. And then I was like, oh shit, it's a status update. He just did a Facebook
it's not that
status
you told
update.
the paper. It's the society editor, the society reporter noticed you were doing something. Whoever was on the society beat. And like the reporter would have found out and written something. And it would have been like, oh, what's going on at the Pontelliers? Inquiring minds want to know. So he kind of preempted that by saying, oh, hey, by the way.
It's like a Facebook post where you're like, well, if some people knew how to keep their mouth shut, we wouldn't have this problem. And everyone's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And you have to read the comments to find out.
Leonce didn't want to be subtweeted by the local paper. So he had to go ahead and get out in front of it.
I think it's really slick. Like, because he doesn't even really know what's going on. And he's like, I haven't even figured this out, but quick, let me keep up appearances.
Here's my cover story. Yeah. Exactly. So anyway, the other thing that kind of happens is she goes to Iberville, where the kids have been with his family for the summer or however long they've been there. They've been there a while. And she's really happy. Like, she missed them. She's happy to be there. She has this lovely time with them.
She plays with them.
And then she plays with them. She's really attentive. And then she leaves and forgets them.
Yeah. That's it.
It's like, oh, great. That was it. I was with the kids. I saw them. I'm done. So the kids are going to kind of, not the kids, them specifically, but the idea is going to, be key here in a moment. So chapter 33, she goes back to see Madame Rice. Madame Rice isn't there. So she plays a little piano. But somebody does show up. It's Robert.
Oh, my heart be still.
Well, it like knocks her back.
Yeah.
Like she almost faints.
Because he didn't, especially when she finds out how long he's been home, like 2 days.
Right.
And she very self-centeredly is like, what? He must not love me because in all of my daydreaming, he came immediately to me, for me, and that's the whole sole reason why he's here. As if, regardless how he might feel for her, she still isn't the center of his universe. Dude needs to make money. He needs a job. He can't, he's not Arobin.
He gets contrasted with him in a moment. But yes, exactly. He's not Arobin.
And they don't even really know how to interact. It's like real awkward.
No. Yeah, for a while it's very weird. And then finally kind of the ice breaks and she says, this is the first time you've seemed like the old Robert, that I've been missing. And right at the end, she asks him, what were you doing in Mexico? Come on, man. Like, what were you doing in Mexico? And he responds with, I've been seeing the waves and the white beach of Grand Isle, quiet grassy street, the Chênière, the old fort at Grande Terre. I've been working like a machine and feeling like a lost soul. So he admits at this point that he has been thinking about nothing but her. Like, he is smitten. And he says, so what have you been doing? And she
says,
repeats it, right? She repeats it. I've been seeing the waves, the white beach.
Nothing.
And we close the chapter. He says, Mrs. Pontellier, you are cruel.
And then he just lays there with his eyes closed.
And they just lay there. And so at this point, we don't quite know, but what is her cruelty in that she is returning his affections?
Right. Yeah.
And she has awakened to the possibilities. But as we're going to find out, Robert is not quite so libertine or liberal. His thinking is not quite so opened up. That you would think that this woman that you're obsessing about, that you love, she admits that she also loves you. You would think he would be happy. But he's not.
Mm-mm. I mean,
and we'll get to that.
Feels like it's obvious, but...
Well, yeah, it kind of is. That it's an impossibility that they could be together. She doesn't see this as an impediment.
No, because she's suddenly awake. And everything's everything that wasn't open to her before, she suddenly now feels free because she's found her independence. She realizes, like, I can do whatever I want. I'm not a literal prisoner. Like, I felt like one. I stomped on my ring. I hate my house. I hate looking at the things in it. And I felt like a prisoner. But I'm not. I'm just going to move out. I'm super free.
Right.
I mean, to think that he wouldn't feel the same way is like, it goes against her awakening in some ways. But
right. The other thing that kind of happens in this chapter is when they get over to the pigeon house, he sees that she's got a picture of Arobin on the coffee table, and he's like, "Why do you have a picture of Alcé Arobin?"
Oh yeah, because he knows his reputation. So
right, because they're peers. I mean, they're all together.
So then in 34, they have dinner.
They have dinner, and he pulls out his smoking pouch, and it's pretty nice. It's like hand embroidered. She's like, "Man, your old pouch is like this old rubber thing you kept your tobacco in." And turns out he got it from a Veracruz girl.
And he plays it off like, "Oh, it's nothing. Whatever."
Right. But then Arobin shows up, and he's like, "Arobin, LeBron, what are you doing here?" So the meeting of the two.
I like that he was talking about, she's like, "I suppose some of those Mexican women, they're very beautiful." And he's like, "Some are hideous." Like,
yeah.
They're like any other kind of person. She's like, "Yeah, but they're pretty." I mean, he's like, "Meh."
There's good, yeah, just as you find women everywhere. There's some good-looking ones, there's some not good-looking ones. So I like that he's not stereotyping here. Good for you.
And she, the contrast, I think this is just perfect comedy. The scene between Arobin and Robert, and how she says that he's gotten, he says about the Veracruz girls as well. And you've gotten on, but not well enough to keep you there. Stunning girls, though, in Mexico. And he's like, "No,"
right.
Like, he's like, "I just said some of them were hideous,
like,
dude."
"Oh." Yeah, Arobin's like, "Oh, they're all hot in Mexico, man. Go on."
I was there a couple of years ago, and she's like, "Oh, they give you embroidered slippers and tobacco pouches and things." He's like, "Oh, no way. They didn't like me that much. Like, they'd have to really like you to do that." She's like,
right.
"Oh, you were less fortunate than Robert." "I'm always less fortunate than Robert." And Robert's like,
"So what does that say about Robert, huh? Is he also..."
Robert's like,
maybe
"And
keep
that's
his
my cue. Time for
his
me to
reputation
go."
is not as... maybe not as good as we have thought.
But he takes it as his cue to go, which I don't blame him.
Right.
He's like, "I do not want to be involved in whatever you two are doing to me right now. I gotta go."
Because he knows something's going on, because Arobin just does not show up for no reason.
Right.
Right, because he's not coming for...
just to get his
lectures.
face drawn, which was her excuse.
Right.
I was going to draw his face.
Exactly. Going to draw his face. But I drew a bunch of other things too. Let's see. So then he leaves, and we have the great quote from Arobin where he says, "You know that I only live when I'm near you." And she responds, Is that one of the things you always say to women?" He says, "Yeah, I've said it before, but I don't think I've ever come so near meaning it." So even now he's admitting that he doesn't really mean it. He just, "I think I mean it. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know." So he's just full of them. He is your definite, your stereotypical definition of a pickup artist here.
Yeah.
Okay, so now 35, and I love the contrast with the start and end of 35. So we kick off 35 with her waking up happy, full of excitement and hope about the future because Robert is back in New Orleans. She can't stop thinking about him. And this morning she gets some letters. So she gets 3 letters. She gets a letter from the kids, she gets a letter from Leonce, and she gets a letter from Arobin. The kids, they told her, "Oh, we found some pigs, baby pigs." And all this. She writes them back, and, "Oh, this is great job, kids, it's wonderful." Leonce, he says, "Hey, we're getting ready to leave this summer, don't forget." And she writes back kindly, but sort of evasively, doesn't really commit to anything. Arobin's letter, she's like,
burns it,
tosses it in the fire, just burns it.
She hates him so much.
She's like, "I'm not answering this." She's leaving that one on red. She has not responded to his text.
God. So
now at this point, Arobin's always around. He comes over again. There's another... I mean, how else you want to take it? They hook up again because, as we said, he detected the latent sensuality, which unfolded under his delicate sense of her nature's requirements like a torpid, sensitive blossom. Like, this girl just needs it. She cannot get enough. It is When it's go time, she doesn't care who's around. Arobin's here. Great. You will do.
I mean, Kate Chopin is a beautiful writer, and I guess in some way that paragraph is a beautiful way to say exactly what you just paraphrased, but I can't help but feel like slimy and creepy when she's described as like a torpid flower. Like, ugh.
Yes. And that flower needed some tending.
Nature's
and
requirements.
Arobin's got a green thumb.
Go ahead, ladies. Use that excuse next time. You'd be like, it's nature's requirements.
Just got to do it. But then there's no despondency when she fell asleep that night. So she's fine when she goes to bed, but nor was there hope when she awoke in the morning. Yeah. So the next day, she's like, you know what? Robert didn't come again today. Arobin did, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so she's just like, this is my life now. You know, I apparently Arobin is my thing. And she's just like, whatever. She's kind of resigned to it.
But then
in 36, she goes to get some coffee at a local coffee shop.
And who's there?
Robert shows up. What do you know?
Keep meeting by accident.
They do. So he comes home with her. They kind of hang out. And this is where Robert kind of admits what's going on, like why he is tortured, why she is cruel. It's, you are Léonce Pontellier's wife, and that phraseology, it's not just you are married, right? You are Léonce Pontellier's wife.
Yeah,
you are like
point.
The wife of one of the richest dudes in New Orleans. Like, she is a known quantity, a known entity.
And I'm just a poor little island boy who has some cabins and tried to have fortune in Mexico, and it didn't work out. And like,
exactly. And this dude is like up there.
I love his description of why she is cruel. May not intentionally cruel, but you seem to be forcing me into disclosures which can result in nothing. As if you would have me bear a wound for the pleasure of looking at it, without the intention or power of healing it. Which is interesting that Arobin actually did bear a wound to her. She was disgusted.
With the intention of looking at it.
Yeah, and she was disgusted by it.
Where she's trying to get Robert to bear the wound of his love for her and how it's torturing him.
With no power of healing it. Like, you can't leave your husband. You literally are, what are you going to do, girl? Like, we're going to live in secret forever? Great, you got that cute little house, but soon your husband's going to be basically next door. It's not like she moved to the island or to New York or something crazy. She just moved down the street.
Right. And this is also the explicit laying out of the awakening, right?
Yeah.
She says, he says, even if you would have set me free, you'd be set free. And she says, what are you talking about setting me free? I am no longer one of Mr. Pontellier's possessions to dispose of or not. I give myself where I choose. If he were to say, here, Robert, take her and be happy. She's yours. I should laugh at you both.
That's awesome.
So she is completely in charge of herself. She's got agency now. She's like, I don't belong to any man, but I'm throwing myself at you, Robert. I'm choosing you.
And I think the unfortunate thing is, while she has, or believes she has this agency, because she lives in the time that she lives, and because she lives in the society she lives in, and there are, societal rules and moral obligations and all of those things, I think in some way she's kind of fooling herself. Because she is, she's free, but she's hurting people in her wake. Like, it hurts Robert. They can't be together.
She wants everybody to break away and do what they want. And the rest of society can't break away.
No.
I get what she feels. So I've been having these conversations, with my wife because, we joke I'm unemployed now, right? I'm not destitute. I have military retirement. I have a modest income, right? So now that we've sort of moved in and we're kind of settled, we went hiking yesterday for, 2 hours or so. And we were just talking on the walk. And I said, it feels really good to sort of have a town where we could see ourselves settling. Like, we just sort of live here. Like, we ostensibly could just buy a house. Like, I don't actually have to work. Like, I don't have to get a job, right? And so she was like, oh, good. You need to, she's been reading this book too, Why We Sleep.
Yeah. She told me about
it. She's telling everybody about it. She won't stop telling me about it. Anyway,
it's good.
I've basically read it myself. But anyway, the fact that, so I'm a night owl, and so technically I shouldn't wake up before 9 a.m. Like, I should wake up at 9, I should work until maybe 6 or 7 in the evening, and I shouldn't go to bed until about 1 a.m. Like, just physiologically, how I operate. And she said, you could find a job that would let you do that. And I'm like,
where?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, where? And B, that's just not how society works, dear.
Yeah.
So, she wants, and I said to her, you want all of society to suddenly conform to this radical, like, oh, night owls, you guys can work the 10 to 6 shift, and that's fine. And everybody up. And I said, that's just not how it works. Mm-hmm. Like, you get up and, like, I'm sorry. Like, I still understand that. Like, I would love it if society suddenly wave your magic wand and, oh, you can work from home, or you can have a flexible schedule, or you can work 4 days a week, and, whatever it is. But it's just not how it works. So I operate in the reality. And that's what Robert is saying. He's like, I operate in this reality where you are married to Léonce Pontellier. We have no future. What's the point? Your love is torturing me. And she's like, but I'm free now. Well, it's great. You're free, but nobody else is.
Yeah. And it's not like she's suggesting, let's run away. Let's live on the island forever. And Léonce will never come there again because, his weird wife and her lover are there. Or let's run to the west, or let's go east and live in New York. Like, she's like, I took a house down the street and I'm quote unquote free. And
so are her wings strong enough to really break free?
And what's she going to do? She got money from the races. I get it, but that's not a job. Could it be a job?
Right.
Maybe.
I don't think so.
So in a way, she is kind of cruel, or society's cruel, and Robert knows they have to live within that. So,
right.
Doesn't stop her, though. Even after he articulates this, it doesn't stop her from kissing him wildly.
Exactly. So they're interrupted. I think we were on the train to Bonetown, but we get interrupted here because Adele Ratignolle's having her baby, sends her kiddo or her servant over to get Edna. Edna says, hey, look, just chill here. I'll be back. I gotta go see her. I gotta help her. I'll be back. Trust me, I'll be back real quick. Just be here. And we have chapter 37, which really, so Adele has the baby. Really, the only thing this chapter does is Adele knows, right? Because she says,
for sure.
She says to Edna, think of the children, Edna. Think of the children.
Remember them. Like, you can't run off with your lover because you got kids.
So even in the height of Adele, her mania over the pregnancy and the childbirth and how crazy she's being, because she's like throwing things and kicking the doctor out and screaming, she still has presence of mind to say, hey, and this could be why she sent for Edna. Like, I got to tell her, because she knows Robert's back in town. I got to tell you, got to know now, because I can't get out of the house. Yeah. So I got to get you over here. Think of the children, Edna.
And this, as we see, stays with Edna.
So after the birth, we roll into chapter 38.
She walks home with the doctor, right?
Yep. The doctor walks her home, and they kind of discuss, and he says, hey, look, I can, nobody else kind of understands what you're going through, but I do. Like, please come see me. We can talk about this. I'm not involved. I'm a safe space. You can come talk to me. Please do. And, she's kind of non-committal.
And he does his best. She should have talked to him. I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
But he really seems to be the most sympathetic view of a man. He didn't seem to be when we first met him, but although he did say, just leave her alone, it'll pass, it's fine. But he articulates the trouble. The trouble is, he says, that youth is given up to illusions. So you give up, I take it as you give up your youth, because she's just 29, been married to Leonce for however long. You give up your life for the illusion of the next chapter, of the happy marriage with the kids and whatever the illusion was back then. I assume it has to do with money and wealth, and maybe even in some cases, some great love or whatever. And it's an illusion. And he says it seems to be a provision of nature, a decoy to secure mothers for the race. So this is how we get, it's part of making sure humans live on or whatever. We have to trick you.
We lock you in.
Yeah.
You thought you were going to have all this fun, when you're young. And I think still today, like,
sure.
People, I remember when we were kids, like you would see in the card store, the cards that, oh, you're 30 now. Oh, you're 40 now. My 30, I thought my 30s were pretty great.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that my back sucks, my 40s are better than when I was in my 20s. Like, so the fact that the only reason I would go back to my 20s if I had like a time machine or whatever would be, to respec my character and put more points into other attributes before I got to this level, So this illusion that youth is this great thing and you lose all this opportunity. She's now at 29, you could say, going through a midlife crisis and trying to regain that lost youth.
Yeah. Trying to have some like hoe phase that she didn't get to have when she was in her early 20s or whatever. I feel like I feel like I got duped by, quote unquote, the illusion of the next chapter in my younger life, because I was married before and we were together for a long time, high school sweethearts and all of that. Really, really, really positive relationship now with him and everything. But I think really the downfall was I really super wanted to get married, and we were going to, because we were together for 8 years. So, let's just do it. What are you waiting for?
Do it.
Let's, who cares about the other things that we might do? We'll just do them once we're married. Let's just get married and have the party. And then I was like, I'll still go to grad school. We'll still travel. And now that I'm older, I'm like, I never would have done those things had it not broken up. And it broke up in a really painful way, because basically I take it as neither of us had a hoe phase. And I don't know if he listens to this, but excuse me for calling what happened your hoe phase, but it kind of was. And I mean, now I'm thinking, and I've told him this, like, no hard feelings. Like, that is what happens, in my opinion, if you get married way too young and you're not ready for it. And there's no reason to break off your relationship. But is there a reason to keep it going? And you shouldn't.
So you got some Creole in you.
And
very pragmatic.
All of that was very painful at the time, but now I'm like, oh, that's what people do. Plus, it also worked out really well for me.
It was just nature's requirements, You gotta yield to them sometimes with that.
But I got to have
embrace.
When I got married at 30 to my current husband, and my life is awesome and I love it, and it is clearly the right life for me. So it all worked out well for me. So I can have those feelings.
I mean, you have a podcast. Clearly, it's all worked out.
It does not get better than having a podcast that you spend a lot of time and effort on, and you get literally no money for it.
Doesn't get any better than this, folks. All right, so we end 38 with really the key here, because she gets back home. Robert is gone, but there is a piece of paper, and it says, "I love you. Goodbye. Because I love you." Oh, gut-wrenching.
Because he would destroy her life.
Devastated.
It's
exactly.
He was like, don't go to Adele. Don't leave. And he was saying that because I think he was like, right now I'm in the moment of lacking inhibition. Like, I will run away with you right now, or I will, like, we'll do this thing. But if you leave and I have time to think about it, nope, it's not going to happen. Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. He left.
Exactly.
Like, good on Robert, though.
Which, we didn't bring up the quote, but twice, he said twice, I think, back in 33, Robert calls her a child because she acts reflexively without thinking. And during the pregnancy chapter, Adele says that she also acts without thinking.
Yeah, without
without reflection.
She tells her that the chapter where she goes to see Madame Rice, when Madame Rice isn't home, earlier in the day, Adele had come over and said, allow me to say this, but you're like a child and you're not reflective. And she's like, oh, you can tell me anything. I'm literally not going to listen to you. You poor housewife.
Speaking of children, my son is singing in the tub, and I think it's coming across. I will try to cut that out. You might get some extra singing in this episode. So finally, that brings us to our final chapter, chapter 39. Oh, the end. And she goes, now we have switched venues. We're down at Grand Isle.
I love this chapter.
Victor's there, flirting with Maria Kita, getting the boats ready, getting the cabins ready for the summer. And suddenly, a travel-stained, travel-weary Edna shows up, and Victor's like, whoa, what are you doing here?
Super weird for them, because they're literally talking about, he's like exaggerating this dinner party. He's doing a little bit of John Thorpe, where he's like, oh yeah, this party that I was invited to, it was incredible. And he's exaggerating.
Well, he was at one of the richest mansions in the city. Yeah. So to him, this was a big deal.
And Mary Kita is like imagining all this splendor and grandeur. And to them, Edna is like a god or like a goddess at the head of the table, which she kind of was described that way in her golden gown and her diamonds on her head and whatever.
Yeah.
And then suddenly
she descends.
Yeah.
She descends to be with them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because there is nothing that rich folks like more than going downtown and slumming it with the poor. So she shows up, and he's like, well, I don't have any food. I'll get something from the market. We'll make something. We'll make a good deal. She's like, no, just whatever. Just
do you have fish?
Whatever, it's fine.
Like, don't go through any trouble. But I think she kind of makes it a little bit elaborate. I mean, she said, I'm very hungry. Like, you have to go make me food. Basically, they're going to go procure food and lodging for her immediately.
Right.
And
because he's like, I don't know, the cabins are ready.
Right.
I mean, you could sleep in my room or whatever.
I think she knows what she's doing. She's getting them away.
Do you think? Do you? I was going to ask. Do you know? Is she? So she's purposely sending them away at this point.
This is my third read, and I think that's exactly what is happening. And she's like, do you have fish? Like, she's asking for something specific, but then also being evasive and like, well, don't go through too much trouble. And they clearly are going to go through a lot of trouble. And he even complains. He's like, ugh, like if I had had but word that you would be here.
You should have told us. Yeah.
Now it's good. He sends Mary Kita to go get someone. Like, can you go get a cook?
Yeah.
Can you go find, I can't remember her name. Where is it? It doesn't matter. But can we find someone to run and find Philomel's mother? And I'll go to the kitchen and, oh God, women have no consideration. And so they're bustling around and they're gone. And she's like, I'm going to go swimming.
Yeah.
But it's freezing. You can't go swimming.
And he's like, it's a little cold to swim. She's like, no, it's fine. So she goes, I mean, everything just sort of happens in a tumble. She puts on her bathing suit, walks out to the ocean. She's like, yeah, you know what? Takes it off. She's completely free and naked to, and if you look at where Grand Isle is, this is it. This is the end, right? There's nothing past here. It's nothing but ocean beyond. She walks out until it gets deep enough that she starts swimming. And, she has a memory of that night where she swam and was terrified and couldn't get back to shore. And she pushes past that. And she just keeps going until her body gives out.
And that's it.
Oh, I don't know if it came. I had goosebumps reading this end of the chapter, even though I knew it was coming. I'd read it before. Just reading through it, it was tough to get through the last bit.
It's so,
and it's just.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. It's just the life flashes before her eyes.
Yeah.
She just thinks of everything. She remembers the note, "Goodbye, because I love you." He didn't understand. He would never understand. And she says, perhaps Dr. Mandalay would have understood if she had seen him, but it was too late. The shore's gone. behind her. Her strength is gone.
And
then she died. I mean, she hears her father's voice. She hears Margaret's. She hears a dog. She hears the spur of the cavalry officer.
It's so
the end.
So well crafted. Like Kate Chopin because
so good.
Oh my God. I'm like really excited. But on the previous page, we harken back to that chapter that I love, to chapter 6. And it's the same two descriptions of the sea that we talked about in our very first discussion. The voice of the sea is seductive, never ceasing, whispering, clamoring, murmuring, inviting the soul to wander in abyss of solitude. So that exact phrase is in chapter 6. And then again, the touch of the sea is sinuous, enfolding the body in its soft, close embrace. The exact sentence from chapter 6. Then what's beautiful about what you just were discussing, like her life, current life and what she just went through flashes before her eyes, but then these very 3 key memories. So her voice, the voice of her father and sister Margaret, they were the 2 that said, no, you can't marry Leonce because he's a Catholic. You'll bring like scandal, or it's wrong, or whatever.
Weird. Yeah.
So had she listened to them, she wouldn't be stuck with Leonce. So there's like regret number 1. Then her first inkling of this sexuality, or this infatuation with the cavalry officer. So these 2 differing lives that she could have had. And then we get to this synesthetic experience as well. Like when it talked about she had these visions with music, she basically smells color at the end. It says the musky odor of pinks filled the air. So I wonder if that's like a description of drowning, or at least of her.
Or the hum of bees. You know,
water, like probably.
That sound, how it muffles everything in your ear.
And then she smells pink as she drowns. I'm getting chills right now. Thinking about it.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
And I'm sure we'll get into it in the wrap up episode as well. But it's the thinking of the children really that's haunting her at the end, and it's one of the catalysts, along with Robert's goodbye. Like, I can't live like this. I said you shouldn't give all of yourself to your children, and if I decide not to live my life the way I want to because I'm thinking of the children, then what have I done? I've given my full self, and I said you should never do that. So I can't have the life I want and have my kids, who I enjoy from time to time. Like, I think she does love them, but she doesn't love being a mother, but she loves those little humans. I think it can be 2 very separate things for her.
Well, as Dr. Mandalay said, societally, nature entrapped her to procreate, and she didn't want to, really. Yeah. Had she known, had she awakened earlier and known, she would not have had children.
Well, society still, like, if she had wakened super early...
As mine sings in the background.
Like, now, if you decide at 24, you're like, I don't want kids. You know what? Let me make sure that never happens and, like, get my tubes tied. They won't do it. They'd be like, you might change your mind. Where I understand both sides in a way, but you're not free to choose that for yourself. And I don't know if the same is true for men. Like, if you're 24 and you want a vasectomy, I don't know if they're like, well, you might change your mind later, sir. So we're not going to do it. But it also is reversible.
Well, I can certainly tell you that when you do, they sort of counsel you.
Do they?
Yeah. So they make sure, and I think that, I don't know if it's by, I'm sure state laws vary, and I did it in South Carolina, but they wanted, I think, my wife's consent.
Wow. For real?
To have it done. Yeah. And I was like, we have 3 kids. We're good. And he's like, oh, okay. All right. So he was like, he was fine with it. Okay. Yeah. Like, the doc didn't make her come in.
Because I've heard the opposite. Like, you have to get your husband's
consent. No, I think they did. The pre-consult, I think they did make her come in.
Interesting.
Now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah. And she was like, no, please. We have 3 kids. We're good. Yeah. So they made sure. And, like, they make you sign the thing that said, reversal is not a guarantee. And I was like, dude, I ain't getting this reversed.
Snip, snap, snip, snap.
Yeah.
Like Michael Scott.
No. Michael Scott's exactly like Michael Scott. I got a vasectomy, then I got it reversed. I got another one. Oh god, yeah, no, that was not for me. But yeah, they made sure. So, I mean, you can't force or sterilize yourself, but we've made birth control available. You can
in most places
do birth control in most places.
Most states. But it also depends on your age, and you might need to get consent, and it's like...
Buy it now before the Supreme Court says you can't have it anymore. Okay, that's it. Right, done with that. Sorry,
Badger.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, man. So that wraps up the book. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, we're an hour and a half already here. Stop. There's going to be a lot to talk about in our wrap-up episode. This is going to be one of the meatier ones. Ones. Not meteor. I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that dinosaur TikTok? Anyway. Did you see that one? With the God of the Angel?
No, I haven't.
No? Okay. You have to watch it. But yeah, so this will be one of the meatier episodes that we have done with the wrap-up. So you will find the wrap-up that we're alluded to in your feed next week, along with the announcement of our next book. And, we've got a spooky Halloween selection for next month. Very excited about that. So look for Classics You Slept Through next Tuesday, and we'll finish up The Awakening and let you in on our next book, which you will also find next week. We'll start that off and get you ready for the Halloween season. All right. Anything else this episode, Mary? You got anything else for us?
No. Don't go out swimming past the buoys, folks. But
exactly.
Go ahead and take your clothes off on the beach if you feel like it.
in some jurisdictions, that is probably illegal in most states. Please check your local listings, regulations and laws. Yeah, exactly. So until next time, you can hit us up on social media. We are at CYST Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and the Facebook, and as well as we have an email address where you can write your thoughts, cystpod@gmail.com. So let us know what you felt when you read this book. Did you awaken? Did your nature's requirements yield to the torpid touch of Kate Chopin's prose?
Did you smell pink?
I don't know.
Did you smell any other color?
Hear any bees? I mean, that's Nicolas Cage's problem, so don't go out like that. So anyway, have you ever seen Wicker Man? No. I'm sorry. All right, we're getting off topic. The bees. Not the bees. Anyway, so until next time, this has been Classics You Slept Through. I didn't think of a school pun this week, but just do your homework.
Peace.